Welcome to Africa channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us.
Performance, efficiency, and value makes it the pick of the new Range Rover lineup. If you live where they sell it, anyway. The best Toyota Land Cruiser I ever drove? The V8 diesel-powered 200 Series VX Sahara I took through crocodile-infested northern Australia 10 years ago. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class I truly lust after? It's not the thundering G63 or even the mad G63 4x42. It's the G400D, the one with Mercedes-Benz's smooth 3.0-liter inline-six turbo diesel under the hood. And my favorite version of the 2023 Range Rover? If you've picked up on the theme here, you've already said it's the diesel-powered D350. And you're right. Unfortunately, it's a theme without a future. Tough new laws tightening emissions of particulates and NOx mean diesel engines for light-duty passenger vehicles, cars and SUVs, are on borrowed time. In Europe, where in 2015 diesels accounted for 48% of sales, they are now forecast to total less than 10% in 2025 and barely 5% in 2027. And automakers have realized precious development dollars are better spent perfecting PHEV and BEV powertrains than finessing a dying engine technology, especially for a market like the US, which never really warmed to passenger vehicle diesels in the first place. That's why, like the Mercedes-Benz G400D, and the 300 Series Land Cruiser, which is available in markets such as Australia with a new 3.3-liter V6 turbo diesel, the Range Rover D350 will remain forbidden fruit for American consumers. And that's a shame. The long-term emissions issues are real, but right here, right now, the D350 is arguably the best all-round powertrain for the big rangy. American Range Rover buyers have a reasonable choice when it comes to deciding what they want under the hood of their uber luxe off-roader. The entry-level engine is the P400, the 3.0-liter turbocharged Ingenium inline-six with 395 horsepower and 406 pounds-to-foot of torque. At the top end is the P530, its 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 sourced from BMW and tuned to deliver 523 horsepower and 553 pounds-to-foot of torque. In between, though subject to limited availability, is the P440e plug-in hybrid, which combines a lower-tuned version of the P400 3.0-liter engine with a 140 horsepower electric motor and a 38.2 kilowatt-hour battery to deliver 434 horsepower and 457 pounds-to-foot of torque and a pure electric driving range of up to 62 miles. But none arguably offers quite the same combination of performance, efficiency, and value as the D350 powertrain. The D350 is the top-spec version of JLR's 3.0-liter Ingenium inline-six turbo diesels, producing 345 horsepower at 4,000 revolutions per minute and 516 pounds-to-foot of torque from 1,500 revolutions per minute to 3,000 revolutions per minute. The lowest output version and the entry-level engine in UK market Land Rover Defenders is badged D250 and makes 245 horsepower and 420 pounds-to-foot. The mid-spec engine, which powers the least expensive Range Rover and Range Rover Sport models available in Britain, is rated at 295 horsepower and 479 pounds-to-foot. No, the D350 doesn't have the horsepower of the P400 and P440e powertrains available in the US, but look at that torque number. It produces 27% more torque than the P400, 19% more than the P440e, and is only 37 pounds-to-foot shy of the P530 V8. Power is nice. Power is fun. But in a big, heavy SUV, torque is your best friend. And here's where the torquey D350 puts the icing on the cake. It's not the heaviest of these Range Rovers. Far from it, in fact. According to Land Rover's figures, the D350 tips the scales at 5,357 pounds. That is, again, according to LR, 117 pounds more than the P400 weighs. But it's also 173 pounds lighter than the P530 powered Rangy, and it's a massive 583 pounds lighter than the P440e. You can see what that means in the quoted performance numbers. Not unexpectedly, the 523 horsepower P530 will lunge away from the D350 at the traffic lights, but although it's 45 horsepower down on the P400 and 84 horsepower down on the P440e, the diesel's claimed 5.8 second 0 to 60 mph time is just 0.3 of a second slower than the 6-cylinder gas engine Rangy, and a tenth off the PHEV model. You can see it at the gas pump, too. The EPA rates the P400 at 21 miles per gallon combined and the P530 at 18 miles per gallon. In Europe, on the slightly more generous WLTP test cycle, the D350 is rated at 31 miles per gallon combined. All weight, performance, and fuel consumption numbers refer to standard wheelbase models. That WLTP number seems realistic, After 450 miles of 50 to 80 mile per hour freeway cruising, 30 to 70 mile per hour two-lane running, and noodling along narrow British country lanes, our test car averaged an impressive 26.6 miles per gallon. How does that compare with the P440e PHEV? Hard to say, given how much gas the PHEV Range's internal combustion engine uses is very dependent on where you've been driving, how fast you've been driving, and how far you've driven. Land Rover says the P440e's 38.2 kWh battery, usable capacity is 31.8 kWh, means at least 75% of the daily journeys undertaken by current Range Rover owners can now be completed without the internal combustion engine firing up, which is brilliant. But on longer trips there's no escaping the fact that the PHEV powertrain has nearly 6,000 pounds of Range Rover to contend with. Your actual mileage can vary wildly. It's not hard to get a PHEV Range's fuel consumption into the mid-teens when hustling it along a winding two-lane through hilly terrain. And that's the sort of road where you'll also notice the D350 feels just that little more agile, that little more responsive to steering and acceleration inputs, than the heavier PHEV model. There's a distant murmur from the Ingenium diesel as the 8-speed automatic transmission adroitly surfs the broad swell of torque, seamlessly shuffling the ratios to find the right balance between performance and efficiency. You can use the steering wheel mounted paddles to shift manually if you want, but there's really no need, especially in sport mode. Winding two lanes highlight the L460 series Range Rover's dynamic strengths. The steering is lovely, accurate, and beautifully consistent. The car's turn and response sharpened by the rear wheel steering system. The primary and secondary ride quality is truly sublime, and the roll motions are artfully controlled by the 48-volt anti-roll system. Overall noise levels are limousine-like. It flows down the road, this Range Rover, shrinking around you. You must remind yourself you're driving an SUV that doesn't just look the part but is also a highly capable off-roader. On the freeway it's an effortless mile muncher. At 80 miles per hour in 8th gear, the Ingenium diesel is turning 1,800 revolutions per minute, just above the peak torque threshold. And because diesels love constant throttle, it's operating at close to peak efficiency. Our experience suggests long runs on an interstate would see the D350 easily beating the WLTP's 31 mile per gallon combined number. That means a real-world cruising range of at least 645 miles. You'll need to stop before the Range Rover does. We've saved the best until last. The Range Rover D350 is cheaper than either the P400 or P440e models, let alone the P530. Based on British pricing, a D350 specified the same way as our test vehicle. Options included the handsome Batumi gold paint, 22-inch wheels, digital LED headlights, semi-aniline leather trim, heated and vented seats front and rear. Would cost $117,025 in the US, versus $117,525 and $123,025, respectively, for similarly equipped P400 and P440e models. A P530 with the same options would cost $142,650. Performance, efficiency, and value, add it all up, and the D350 is the pick of the L460 Range Rovers.
We have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to help us.